Contrary to popular belief, video games are not a natural resource on Earth. Each video game has to be developed by somebody, or often by a large group of people. And this is one of the main ways of being able to judge if you're going to enjoy a game or not. The game is made by CD Projekt Red? Well, you might have a game underneath all of those bugs and glitches if you're lucky. The game was made by EA? Please purchase the rest of this joke. And while there are some developers that are known to have their downfalls, there are genuinely some pretty great developers out there. No, scratch that. There are a fuck tons of great developers out there, you just need to know where to look. The first and probably most important quality in a game developer is how good the game actually is. How much time, effort and passion is put into the game to make it perfect. When it comes to quality control, the AAA studios tend to have an advantage because they have the money to throw at people to keep it a high quality, but this doesn't always pan out. We all remember what happened with Cyberpunk. Most of the AAA titles with glitches tend to be fairly big projects, which is part of the reason things could slip past the playtesters. But if we look at companies like Nintendo, unless you're really trying to find glitches to exploit, you aren't likely to find many as you play. Now, indie games have a completely different battle. While the games are nowhere near as big to develop, they're generally only made by a small group of people. But the quality of a game doesn't always boil down to how many bugs and glitches it has. The story, the mechanics, the characters, the voice acting, the general sounds, the graphics, and the art style. All of these factors are the basis of how good a game is. Even if most of them are fantastic, but one of them is so abhorrently shit that it brings down the game as a whole, then the game might not be as worth playing as it could have been. While game quality is probably the most important factor in what makes a good game developer, it doesn't mean jack shit without consistency. Let's say there was a dev that on average made one absolutely amazing game for every 3-ish subpar games, and you could never know which game it is. How likely are you to buy it? Consistency is arguably just as important as quality when it comes to being a game developer. It would probably be better for each game to be 7 or 8 out of 10 than for one game to be 10 while the others are, say, 2 or 3 out of 10. Even if all of this stuff is hitting the mark, there are a pretty sizable chunk of people that simply can't enjoy a game if the dev company is shitty in the real world, because they struggle to enjoy a game with the knowledge that they're supporting bad people through playing it. The most obvious examples of this are Blizzard and Riot Games, who have both had varying degrees of controversy in the past few years. But being a good company has many factors. Realistically, I understand their entire existence is to make money, but this isn't about how to be a good business person, this is about how to be a good game developer. And I believe that the quality of the games and the experience of the players should be more of a priority than how to squeeze as much money out of them as possible. The classic example here is EA, of course. Not only do you have to buy a base game, but a stupid amount of their games are riddled with these microtransactions, either rewarding people for putting more money into their pockets, or essentially just selling half a game. Microtransactions are only half of the problem though. Lately we've been seeing what I can only describe as some sort of mass production of AAA games, where they're trying to pump as many out in the shortest possible time span, which often results in these half-finished, janky, bug-filled games. I mentioned Cyberpunk before, and you know why the quality of that game was so poor for so long? It's what's referred to as crunch, where the developer company overworked their staff so that they can get the game out on time. They delayed the game multiple times by that point because it wasn't finished, and I guess they just didn't want to delay it any further, even though the game was absolutely not ready to be released. Money and profits were put before the quality of the game, which is something I feel we see far too much in the current climate of video games. Just look at Riot Games with League of Legends, not even trying to hide this whole flavour of the month thing, which essentially translates to which profitable characters should we make strong, therefore getting more people to play them, which in turn makes us even more money. New Gangplank skin coming out? Guess we should choose now to give him the buffs before nerfing him right after enough sales. Look, I get it, companies are trying to make money, but I promise to all of the game devs out there, big or small, if your game is genuinely good, it will make money. We don't need to sacrifice the quality of the game to maximise profits, when we could just make great quality games, which will bring in long-term players and then make us just as much money. One last note, I think something that I personally look out for in a game dev is what I like to call the love factor, which essentially is how much love and passion they put into their own game. This is something that is mainly only possible with smaller dev teams, which is why it's so apparent in a bunch of indie titles, because the more people working on an aspect of the game, the harder it is for the developers to feel this more personal connection to the end product, as it's a bunch of people's collective work. But if we look at the smaller teams of people, like in Celeste, It's ridiculously obvious just how much love was stuffed into this game, to the point where the main character reflected greatly on its creator. Or with Stardew Valley, where everything was created by one person. It's hard to find a game with quite as much character as that. It's really up to each person to decide which of these elements are important to them when looking at game developers to support. Some people might like the personal aspect, when others might just be looking for a seal of quality. Or, you know, maybe I've missed something important here. You're more than welcome to let me know in the comments if there are any other important qualities of a game developer that I haven't mentioned. But on that note, thank you for watching, and until next time.